The San Jose Museum of Art has always been interested in Bay Area art history. Besides everything else we do, it's a long standing commitment to the art of the Bay Area. Joan Brown was one of the most interesting, accomplished, and independent painters of her generation. She started out painting with the Bay Area figurative artists, was very interested in many similar things, and completely went in her own direction.
Joan Brown, who is she, why is she important? That's a big question. I think the simplest way to answer it is that she's one of the most inventive artists of the Bay Area. Totally fearless. She was not interested in pursuing a single style or even in the market. She followed her own voice and inspired generations of artists as a result.
The theme of this show is looking at her work from the late 1950s to the late 80s. Is the last painting of the show is 1985, looking at how that work does relate to what the women's movement was doing and feminist arts were doing. And that's, I tried to show, I think even early when she was painting these early self-portraits of herself, there was glimpses of that coming through.
It's been over a decade since her work has been seen in any detail. And as we were talking on the staff, and Jody Throckmorton, the curator of the exhibition, and I were talking, it was clear that she had been left out of all of the recent surveys and reevaluations of the pioneering work that women artists had done in the 60s and 70s. And we felt that it was high time to reconsider her work in that context.
I think that Joan Brown is important because not only did she have success with abstract expressionism and Bay Area figuration, but she went in her own direction. And she always did what spoke to her as a painter. And I think that's what makes her important. And she was also a trailblazer in terms of the women's movement. It wasn't necessarily talking the talk, but she was definitely walking the walk.
She started out influenced by David Park and Elmer Bischoff, who was her great mentor, working in the Bay Area figurative style, very painterly impasto. She was showing at a very young age, winning awards at 21, 22, 23, showing in New York, showing in San Francisco. She walked away from it. And about 1964-65 told her dealers she didn't want to be stuck painting one way, and took a hiatus and rediscovered herself as an artist who painted her life, notably her son, her husbands, her pets.
The show is arranged chronologically, so we're looking at a wide range for work, but then I did pull out certain things. I pulled out the personal narratives. She was actually painting her son Noel, which was not something that a lot of male painters were doing at the time. She was painting domestic life, and then she was also painting of herself a lot. I mean, that was something that started in the late 1950s for her, looking at herself, much like the feminists were, not as this sexual object, but what it means to be a woman in a physical body and what that means to you. And then also looking at relationships between men and women, the power dynamics in a relationship. Joan had a very progressive approach to relationships in her life, and I think that's reflected in her work. And I think she was really a trailblazer in showing that on canvas. And then also the body, looking at what it means to be a woman and to be aging, looking at these different body parts and all those things that really a lot of feminists were doing.
But if you look at the early works in this exhibition in particular, you see that the paint is on the surface so thickly. She loved the visceral material of paint. She loved pushing paint around. Sometimes it barely comes together in a representational image, and you work to see the image within this amazingly rich, thick texture of paint, which she clearly loved as she was taking her energy and merging it with the kind of energetic style of abstract expressionism.
She was not, as I said, stuck in a style or even a given subject. If she was interested in something, she painted it. Whether it was her dog Alan, her great pit bull Bob the tax deductible dog, her cats Donald and Layla. These were and Noel and Manuel and Mike. It was the things that were important to her were her subject, not things that might be important to the art world.
In fact, we're excited that people are still interested in her. I mean, I'm very touched by that. 21 years later. It's amazing. Joan's been gone for a little while, but the work, she's still alive. It's just taken a strange turn, but she's still there, living through her work.